Hello, everyone. Welcome to this fourth episode of BOITHOK Podcast. And we brought you today another interesting episode and with our esteemed guest, Sumaira Waseem, the famous Sumaira for SASFL. Um, so, today's episode, we are keeping the title or the topic mainly on the libertarian philosophy. Is it a scam or not? So, welcome everyone again. I would like Archie to uh, move forward with this.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dibo. So, hi, everyone. This is Archie. If you have forgotten me after this long period of sabbatical. We have Sumaira Waseem with us tonight, a very esteemed guest, and she's currently working as the program manager of Policy Research Institute of Market Economy, Prime, basically. Congratulations, Sumaira, first of all. And she was also the former regional coordinator of SSL Khyber region of Students for Liberty, a good friend of mine, also the boss, and she is also a member of Lula Pakistan. So it's always good to see Sumera in every libertarian platforms and places working side by side and promoting liberty. And obviously, tonight's discussion will be kind of a quirky discussion. So we're looking forward to it. Over to you, Dibo.
Okay, I think we should let Sumaira speak first. So, Sumaira, would you like to tell us do you feel like coming to this podcast? We'll get the feedback after this podcast again, but how do you feel like coming?
It feels quite strange, really, because I was planning on, coming to this podcast in July. So, I mean, we started the idea in June and then it got pushed back to July, and we're now finally doing it, which is really the purpose and the point, really. So, I'm really excited about it. I've only seen and watched the podcast, not, haven't really been a guest myself here. So, it's really nice to know that the hosts are actually some of my best friends from SFL. So that assures me a little. But I've always been very frightful when it came to public speaking. I am getting over it bit by bit. But yeah, it'd be fun to kind of see after this ends how the final product is really like.
Okay, on that good note, so as we said earlier, and the whole context of this podcast is basically started from SFL, Students for Liberty, which is the largest pro-liberty organization in the world, led by students. Our main philosophy is to we want to promote freer future, more inclusive future for the students, so that they have a broader perspective on everything in terms of philosophy, in terms of education, in terms of economy, basically their own rights. And the core of it all would be the philosophy to see everything or think of philosophy in every aspect of life and have a uh, different aspect to it, I guess. So I would like to ask Sumaira, in your own thought process, what do you think libertarian philosophy is, and is it different from South Asian philosophy that, according to our cultures, or in terms of as compared to Western philosophy, or is it the same in everywhere? And is it like there are some comparisons that we can do? In your opinion, what do you think?
So first things first, libertarianism, or what I really simply call as classical liberalism, its central pillar is on the individual, really. So unlike other ideologies and philosophies, libertarianism has always put the individual at its center. The core, basically, the core tenet of every possible aspect of our philosophy has been the individual. Its protection, its life, his or her life, liberty, and property. That's it. Any more than that, it's just not within our ambit, really, and not even any less. When it comes to South Asian traditions and cultures, I think it's a bit different. The reason why South Asian traditions and cultures are resistant to accepting libertarianism as a philosophy and as an intellectual tradition is because South Asian cultures have revolved around communities and not as much as individuals, right? So they've always preferred the community over the individual. It's just been that way of, it's just that way of us. It's just been that way for us. It's a survival mechanism for us because we've seen how, but basically because in historical times and even in our cultures, there's this rooted sense of community, a communal sense, and that an individual does not know, wouldn't know what's in his best interest. It's the community that directs him or her to their desired goals, basically. Follow traditions and cultures, and you're all set for life. That's basically the South Asian way. There's another thing why we're so resistant, is because libertarianism has traditionally been associated with the Western nations, really, and so we view them as invaders, as people who plundered, who really just made things more chaotic in our countries, in our regions. And so we're not really inclined to accepting those, even when we see that they're the most surest ways of creating a more prosperous life for individuals. We still can't, get over that sense of, that envy, that disdain for Western cultures and traditions, because we see them as a source of our disparities, of our misfortunes, and it's just all very, very centered around past grievances, which in a way I can't really say, which doesn't really justify it, but there's little enough we can do when it comes to South Asian mindsets. What we do really see right now is South Asian youth. They're kind of, making the headways for change, and sort of convincing people within their own cultures of not radical changes, because radical changes, they're just not good for us South Asians. We've seen now radical transformations can work in the Western sphere, maybe even in the Middle East and other East Asian countries, but not in South Asia. We've lacked institutional stability. And by institutions, I don't just mean organizations and structures and buildings and some NGOs, civil societies. It means legal institutions. It means political institutions. It means leaders, thought leaders, basically, not political leaders, not limited to political leaders, who have, really acknowledged and really appreciated the sense of individual individual uniqueness, basically. And so maybe our youth, us, and probably the younger generations could, make much more headway when it comes to South Asian countries accepting libertarianism.
Main thing, as long as we have worked on with SFL, or I would say other libertarian organizations also, it it was evident, or that people around South Asia, more specifically, I would say South Asia, or we are mostly developing countries, all of us are. So they are little skeptical about accepting libertarianism because they associate it mostly to capitalism most, and they have a different glass to it whenever they see some Americans, or someone speaking about capitalism, or someone speaking something about prosperity or something like this, in favor of capitalism basically. And do you think libertarianism and capitalism, and what's the philosophy of it that people should actually seek to, what's the viewpoint of from yourself that okay, this is the way libertarianism and capitalism and all of the internal things that one should view to, then we would move towards the more Hayek's and other libertarian philosophers later on.
So libertarianism does advocate for, and undoubtedly advocates for, capitalism as an economic system, basically. We South Asians do not like the word capitalism. Probably it's because it's been inherited, sort of an inheritance, a weird inheritance, but it has been the case because capitalism has been associated with, keeping the rich where they are, safe, secure, prosperous, and leaving the poor, deprived, ruined. That really. And for South Asian countries that have always been not really in the top 10 economies, and more so in the bottom 10 economies, or really just the least economically prosperous countries in the world, they've kind of blamed it all on capitalism. And and also because our philosophers and more of our intellectual traditions revolve around socialism. So I'm not sure if it's the case for Sri Lanka, for Maldives and Afghanistan, but for many of us, for the other six South Asian countries, it's always been centered around socialism. Even our poets even our poets and political philosophers have always advocated for socialism, or maybe some varieties of socialism, right? Because they see it, because it's unique, right? It's like it's simple. It's like we will take away from the rich and give you your share. So it's more like a regional inheritance of ours. We just inherited socialism because of its really simple structure and nature, which is getting your share from the rich, right, who have unjustly obtained it from you. Basically, that's the whole crux of the philosophy, really.
And we are a
And
major player of
which
British.
is interesting because you don't have to put in your effort, you put in any effort, and you get your share, your deed. So it's like, oh, it's set. We're all set for life. You don't need to work. All right, we just get our share and move on with our lives. And
Even after sorry to interrupt, even after coming to know about libertarianism, I thought that maybe the tale of Robin Hood has so many misconceptions. Like Robin Hood had done so many wrongdoings because no matter how much a person rich is, you cannot actually ask them to give their share to others because they have rightfully earned it. So it's very unfair and lazy to ask for. Even to this day, um, many people in our society, in our country, have this misconception. Yeah, they're like uh, the rich people will obviously be spending on me. They will be spending for me. So even in one of the principles of Bangladesh is actually stands on socialism. So
Yeah, one of the
yeah,
pillars is socialism. Yeah.
yeah, one of the pillars
yes,
is socialism.
as well as in, so it's not like a defined uh, pillar in Pakistan, but most of our poets, very famous poets, were always talking about socialism and how it's good for society. And back then they didn't really have an alternative in mind. And people didn't really explain capitalism that well, libertarianism that well. So you could give them a benefit of doubt, perhaps, maybe, not so.
Mhm.
Who knows?
I think
But
it.
like
Sorry.
Archie said, people just want to be free riders. They don't want to do anything. They just want to, like any person. They're like, okay, so they have money. We can get it for free without doing anything. So they're like, you want to have things like free things.
Mm,
But I don't understand the basis for free things. I mean, would you really appreciate just getting free things without them having any utility for you? And like Archie said, even the rich people, they earned their share and they're probably their own assets and through, sheer hard work. And they probably, felt really low at loss even, but they kept it up. They still went through with it. They followed through with their plans, even when it, seemed really impossible. So why can't we? Is it because and so for some people say, oh, they already inherited money, so they have something back burner and they can start with that. But it's not like everyone who's successful has
Some people
something
also say that
inheritance.
Yeah, some people also say that the rich has unjustly taken money from the poor, and how how could we as libertarians actually break this misconception? And also, how can we preach to these people that libertarianism can also promote equity, economic equity? What do you think about it?
So I think they always see themselves at a disadvantage. So they're like, oh, the rich people are already rich, but we don't really have anything. We don't really have much money. And they view it as like a zero-sum game, right? So they're like it's a fixed pie. And so if you even cut it into sections, there's only so much that we can have. So if like the rich have two-thirds of it, we can only get one-third of what's remaining, and that's it. But that's the fixed pie fallacy, right? The pie can even get bigger and even smaller depending on how much work you put in. And so it's not like it's stagnant, right? You can always, increase the size of the pie. And how you do that? That's by contributing. That's by increasing your skill set. It's on you. The default is poverty, really. The default is being poor. All right, so some people have it, good luck, and they're born into rich families. But that doesn't mean that they'll be successful in life. Money is only part of of a successful life, earning money enough that you can go by. But there's more things to it. Wouldn't you want to live a really fulfilling life through the money that you earned yourself, rather than by being parasites and then leeching off someone else's money and their assets. Um, when you put in the work that's required, you feel a sense of purpose, that you did put in some work, you made things happen. And then you have so many ideas running around your mind. Oh, maybe I could start my own business. Oh, maybe I could make things better by incorporating this strategy or this style. But you have to accept certain facts, what Salvations really aren't willing to. They just go on being free riders, really, because we've always seen ourselves as victims of colonialism, of Western propaganda, everything. And so we just want to remain as victims, not putting in enough hard work and just blaming it all on everyone else except ourselves. Even sometimes we blame our politicians, which in most cases is justifiable. But where's your hard work? Did you put in your hard work? Did you advocate for policies? Are you going around telling people what socialism really is, what libertarianism really is? Are you telling people, oh, minimum wage laws are all good and dandy, but I still want to go. I can't say anything because the government is scary, and I don't want to risk my own life. Are you willing to put your principles above everything else, even your life? Then let's get talking. But we're not really there yet. Are
Uh,
you not? Like,
yeah, yeah, sorry. Basically, yeah. I like the main argument of this, like they have is they will always complain about monopoly, and they will complain about like market negative marketing of that kind of thing. The thing is, of course, libertarians also do believe on those also. They don't believe that okay, libertarian will be the utopia, that this is the perfect formula, that if you follow this and everything will be okay. The thing is, in comparison to socialism and communism and that form of thing, and not talking about authoritarian society and everything, that's out of the syllabus. But in terms of socialism and communism and the comparison to capitalism, I think it's much better that it's have a clear competition and clear goal, I guess. And most of the time, people feel like, as you already said, that they don't put in the effort. They feel like they're already at the disadvantage at every point. The thing is, yeah. If you don't have capital to start a business, then I think you can learn the skills, necessary skills, then get on a job, work somewhere. Then you learn how to do the business skills. Then you accumulate some like capital. Then start there from your own on your own. That's a small way of doing things. Like you already said that putting the effort. That's the main goal of the capitalism, at the simplest term, as far as like in my knowledge or as far as I have read. So there like this discussion will go on and on. So like we if we can move to another topic, like maybe more theoretical aspect, uh, in your theory, which libertarian thinker is your favorite?
so I personally love Bastiat and Hayek. So Friedrich Hayek and Frederick Bastiat. Um, my favorite. It's sort of like I also have I do appreciate Rose Lane as well. One of the three theories of liberty. So my top three would always be. But I also like Ronald Coase. I don't know, and
Hmm.
also Henry Hazlitt. So I have so many favorites really. But if I had to pick just one, I'd probably just pick
Bastia.
Bastiat.
Bastia.
Bastiat.
Oh, point to the note, like a point for the viewers also, that we have a Bastia scroll on our like SFL website. You guys can check it out. There are some awesome scrolls and awesome articles, and I think you will get more idea and different kind of topic ideas or aspects in terms of libertarianism there, and all of our LCs right there, contents there also. Okay, please continue.
There's an incentive too, by the way. It's 20 US dollar, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes, you get
Every
it.
every scroll published, you will get $20, and that's a good
Yeah.
incentive, yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
And Duti Pandya is the Bastiat scroll lead. So if anyone wants to send their write-up, please send an email to Duti Pandya.
Yeah. Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah, so even this idea, the Bastia scrolls, they weren't they didn't appear out of thin air, right? Somebody thought of it. By the way, our friend Beauty Pandya actually thought of this, and she put in the effort. She made it work. She convinced many others. She fundraised most of it. And then she set out to make it happen. So you have to put in the work required. Without it, you can't really, you just go on, feeling hopeless if you don't think that you can achieve things. You need to have a can-do attitude. And we don't think that libertarianism or classical liberalism or capitalism, for that matter, is the perfect system for us. We view it as the least imperfect system, right? So it has its own deficiencies, market distortions. Even without government intervention, are a thing. Markets are slow to respond. That's a given, right? That's a given in any situation, even during COVID times. Now, people cite COVID as being the main factor and main criticism of capitalism and free markets. But basically, what many people fail to understand is that markets are and have been slow to respond to crises and even many distortions. But if you let them respond, then they correct the order of things. Right? And so, yeah, we just consider it as the least imperfect system.
You already said Basquiat is your like favorite author or favorite libertarian thinker. What would the like, in your opinion, what's the best thing that like made you like him or his work, or what aspect that you think he shared that okay, everyone must know this?
So you must know that, we actually consider politicians and policymakers to be, the best, to be having the best ideas, have the best minds, and they can change the course of history, they can change the tides of our economic currents and everything, and they can make things all happy and dandy. That's not really the case. So what Basti advises many people is to see the seen and the unseen. Right? There's a difference. So the seen is the apparent and immediate consequences that you see that may look good and well and ordered and beneficial for others. But the unseen is the long-term consequences of that law or policy or directive that sabotages the whole idea. And so it kind of relates to the broken window fallacy. So when you create more laws than necessary, more problems than necessary, you feel as if you're doing something, but what you're actually doing is that you're redirecting your focus, your energies, and our taxpayer money to things that could have been corrected by people themselves, right? So you're wasting resources through very inefficient means when you could have been using that money for something else, right? So since the government's money is just our money, they don't see it as having a responsibility towards it. And when it's your own money, you feel like you're more responsible when, spending it. But since it's not theirs, they can freely spend it on anything. And so even with the laws and policies they make, so for instance, the minimum wage law. So if they put the minimum wage at, let's say, I'll just say $20 because with US dollars, it's kind of like universal thing. So if they put it at 20 USD, you're so it's good, right? 20 USD, everyone gets 20 USD. So people who were getting only $7 US, $10 US, or anything below 20 US dollars, they're now getting 20 US dollars per hour, right? And they're like, woo, we won, right? It's a very good policy, very good law, good, we appreciate it. The policymakers had a brain, they're working for us, good, well done. But what you're seeing right now is the people, like the owners, of businesses and organizations, when they hear, oh, now we'll have to pay 20 US dollars rather than the amount that we were paying, say 7, 10, 15, 18, whatever. They're like, oh, okay, so we need to be more careful when picking the person for the job, because now we have to make sure that it's worth our money, right? So now they're being more selective. This is going to bring the eligibility criteria to a 10 now, where they were more willing to accept people with lacking academic credentials and just 6 months or less professional experience. Now they want people who have at least a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, 4 years worth of experience, because they're we need to get our money's worth, right? Because now that the government has set this minimum wage law, we also need to be sure that we're not spending it recklessly. So you're crowding out the beginners who now have nowhere else to go. Basically, they can't get, and that's what's happening in South Asian economies. Because now people are we need people who have at least a master's degree for them to start in an early, in a early career, to be considered an early career professional, you need to have 3 years worth of experience. How are you going to get that exactly? Through unpaid internships, then, which then you are frustrated by because you're like, I'm not getting anywhere. Do I have to spend 3 years in an unpaid internship? That's that's the effect of minimum wage laws. And not just really the minimum wage laws. When different think tanks they start instituting these laws, others follow because they're like, we also want to make sure that our faculty and our um, team members have these same credentials when competing with theirs, and so they're like, we have to compete because we also want to be presented as a wonderful think tank, as a wonderful organization. So they kind of institute these new eligibility criteria.
Yeah. Also, I would like to add to that is in terms of libertarian philosophy, the whole point of view, mainly the thinkers try to do is, uh, if you don't have the minimum wage, then people can apply, and people will have a choice. Let's say, if someone is having if someone is giving you, let's say, $15 or $8, then if that's a libertarian society or that's a liberal free market, then you also have the choice to go to a different company so that the first one would be forced to pay you a better amount or better salary so that they get a better chance of having a good I would say, work or outcome from you. That's the whole philosophy to it. So it applies to everywhere else. So would you like to elaborate on that? I guess you can elaborate it much better than I can.
So basically, for libertarians, everything is voluntary, right? So without coercion. So if you have that, you're smooth sailing. And that's what we want. So if you have a choice to join, to enter, you also have the choice to exit. So no one's forcing you to stay in an organization where you're underpaid. It's your own choice. It's your own decision. You can leave if you want, if you find better options elsewhere. But if you don't, you can't just blame it on the organization that you're working with, right? You're getting paid and you're also blaming it on them for not having better opportunities. That's just not fair for them, right? Because then you're kind of not really being principled enough, because it's fine if it goes your way, but if it's against you and if it's not going the same as you'd like, you're just gonna forgo that principle. Then that's not really the libertarian way, really, or any principled way. We stick to our own principles. That's what we libertarians do,
Yeah.
even when the going gets tough.
I think that's the most important thing people or that's the biggest misconception people have in terms of libertarianism. So if people at least know this, or at least have this viewpoint that okay, the main point of libertarianism is to have the choice of getting in or getting out, the right to have that choice. So I guess that's the main thing. What are the
Also the right
factors?
to enter
Yeah.
and exit the market. So right to enter and exit. So many people, when they say like, oh, inflation and other things, they made the others go broke, this organization didn't went broke and everything. Well, it's fine if they went broke. Profits and losses are signals to businesses, to consumers, if things are going right and wrong, if things are going right or wrong. So if it's not working out, if you're making more losses than your profit margins, then it is a signal for you to shut that business and do something else. That is the market way. And if you don't like it, then one, there's probably something wrong with you, or two, you just don't understand basic policy and economic solutions and sense.
Thank you for coming to that point. So um, I would ask you the next question. What factors have contributed to the current shift away from libertarian philosophy in public discourse or policy making, in your opinion? Basically, like, what are the things in your own opinion, that people got away from libertarianism because, okay, these are the things made them detest libertarianism, in your own opinion? Or what do you think of it?
I personally think that people are moving away from libertarianism because they just don't want to get involved in complicated stuff. But principles are involved and everything. They just want to really, smooth entry, smooth entry into joining a workforce and then just living their lives as living corpses.
Mm.
Basically, that's what I think, because I see more people applying. Not that there's anything wrong with applying to government jobs, is that they feel I just think that uncertainty is one of the factors pushing people towards accepting the government's laws, accepting any government that they have. also applying to government jobs, because they kind of display stability, certainty, right? And not, not. So it can be unpredictable when you're running your own business or when you're running your own private organization. But when it's the government involved, that there's a source, us taxpayers really, and it's much more easy for us to just go by what the government says, because someone is leading us by the hand, really, literally, even.
I think,
And
yeah.
that's more easy for our generation. And when I say that our youth, the current youth are, are ambitious. They are, but they're also very scared because of the job opportunities have waned, and they just feel very uncertain about it all. And they probably want to find more stability in their life and in their professional lives. And the only thing that they can do that is through, stable income. And they see as a government job as showing, as portraying the stable source of income, or somewhere where the government is involved. Because the governments, they also kind of have exhibit this sense of they're all put together, and they can work themselves out when compared to other institutions,
Uh,
because they make the laws right. They're the ones making the laws. They're the ones making things right, correcting the audit. It's not like it's left to the market forces or anything. They want to make sure that they get all the things that they can. So they're like, let's just surf this wave. It's much easier.
uh, in my opinion, the step away from libertarianism, mostly I have seen in Western communities or Western culture, there is a shift I'm seeing right now that people are fading away, or at least the youths, I would say more specifically, Gen Alpha or Gen Z. All the posts uh, they are doing with their iPhones or their high-end mobiles, and on Facebook or like Meta platform or YouTube or any like social media platform. All of those are born from free market because of our economic society, because the economy was booming, and that gave a platform, that gave an idea. They had the platform to share their own voice and thoughts. That's the whole libertarian principle. They could share their thoughts in a libertarian principle or libertarian platform about a different philosophy. They don't know that it's actually bad. So that's the like funny thing I've seen as far as like uh, being a marketing person, as far as I have seen. And in South Asia, as in the start, you already say we were like ruled by British, and after a point, our economic condition wasn't good, so everyone had a like affinity towards communism, and then later it didn't work. Then it got to socialism to a point. Now we have socialism ongoing right now. What do you think our libertarian thought process should be in terms of like how should we view the world?
Uh, oh, okay. So this is interesting. So personally, I just feel like spontaneous order is very important. Going back to Hayek, really, but I think spontaneous order, but that's kind of difficult for others, for non-libertarians to understand, really, and just average, not really average, but really like the layman. It's really hard for that person to understand. But basically, spontaneous order, or rather than spontaneous order, I want them to consider individual as being a central feature of any philosophy. When you have a person, an individual at the center, you're respecting not only the individual but also a community, also a society, because then you're considerate of even one person's rights, and you're careful with that as well. Also individual, because then you understand that you yourself are an individual, and that while you have rights, you also have duties. So you can't just go around plundering, pillaging, whatever. That's what the government does, right? It's like a collective institution. And taxation, which I call legal plunder, and I don't call it, Bastia calls it legal plunder, but basically that's what it is. I wouldn't want that, because if you want to live a really fulfilling and a joyous life, a thriving, flourishing life, then I'd advise anyone, especially libertarians, to follow their own philosophy. And our philosophy centers everything around individuals, not just you, others as well. and also principles. Be guided by those very principles. Those are foundations of our philosophy. Rule of law, skepticism of any authority. Understand that absolute power corrupts, right? Absolutely. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts, absolutely. That's what Lord Acton said. And that is true, especially in South Asian countries. And that's what we've seen. Because they say that power can get us, can, help us get things that we want, get us away with anything that we can do. But be skeptical of central authority, be skeptical about power and individuals who have power, because they will then consider themselves superior and possibly more intelligent than any other person. They feel like they can direct your lives when they really can't. It's difficult for a central authority to even plan your lives when you yourself are sometimes very are in a situation where you don't really understand how you want to go about living your life. Free markets, understand that markets are like individuals. They need time to build and develop. And so if you give it enough time, you'll see the fruits of it. But if you don't, then you'll just find, then you'll just view everything with a critical eye, and that's just not really in the best interest. Be optimistic about the futures. Economic opportunity is important. And we have laws for that. So any law that you see is inhibiting you from achieving that, go speak to your policymakers, speak to your lawmakers, your political agents, and have it removed. Then you can obviously do that. If you can't do that, you can at least raise awareness against it. But be very principled. The values that you hold important, stick by them, and even in times when your values are kind of put you in a disadvantage in any situation, basically. So yes, be very principled, be very conscientious about your own work, and be optimistic about the overall future of human lives. I know AI, there's real fear about, AI coming in, taking away everything that you hold near and dear. By near and dear, I mean jobs, opportunities, and everything. But, when there's a lot of AI, there'll be more demand for humans, and we even see now, even at this time, we see so many automated scripts, but you'll still find us, right, the host of this show, putting together a script like this, going and, making sure that they have guests for their shows. And so that shows effort, human effort, and that will become more in demand in the years to come. And just make sure that your skills are valuable enough, so you have that power and no one else, to make your skills more valuable, and more, and for more people willing and to pay for those skills. I just ended with that, really. I don't want to be pessimistic about, AI is just coming in and just taking our futures away. I mean, even if it does, I'd rather be more optimistic about this, about human possibility, because we're the ones who created AI, right? I mean, humans did, not anyone else. And so we've always been able to, overcome crises. So I'm sure we'll be able to overcome these as well. We just have to, have hope.
AI will take the jobs. This kind of fear is basically the people who does the basic task. Let's say I would say uh, like posting some videos, or like social media things, or basic, and the people who have basic skills or entry level skills, they get the most fear out because of AI. The people who are in mid range or higher level, I don't see the talk about AI that much, because I don't think AI will take every job. It basically will take some of the repetitive jobs. So people just will use their heads more, like ideas more, because even AI gives an idea, it's not perfect, obviously, and people will need their human touch there, and people never will trust on a machine, in term, like in my opinion, never.
Exactly. And also think bigger, right? Just don't see yourself as, as being in an entry-level job till the end of your life. Think bigger. Think more global, or probably more regional, in our sense. But yeah, think about how you can, provide more value to others, because that's how you're gonna feel more, fulfilled, and that's how you're gonna actually earn as well. So I'd recommend thinking about that. It's a signal, guys. AI is a signal for us to actually think about how we can lead more prosperous and fulfilling lives, and also give more value to how we can give more value to others?
They this exact same scare, I think our like grandfathers also feared when the telephone came, because they had faxes and all that. So they feared that, okay, as compared to then computer came, then the internet came. So this fear
Yeah.
always will come, and everything will this AI will go and the new thing will come up. So you have to be optimistic about
The
everything.
fear back then was about if I could actually be efficient enough to use those technologies. But the fear now is about if they will take away my jobs. So I think it won't be like that. AI will be just like another technology incorporating to help your job get done. That's all. And we actually do have our next episode based on this topic, AI and labor market. That's gonna be a surprise. I'm not gonna reveal it now, but stay tuned, guys. That's
I
all.
know who the guest is, by the way. I know who it is. I know it.
Inside
Yeah.
information.
It's so obvious.
So,
I know. I know.
Inside.
If people at SFL don't know who the next guest is, then might I recommend revisiting the former. I probably I shouldn't give it away, but I do recommend revisiting, the famous SFLs of South Asia. That will give you a clue. Yeah,
yeah.
there's
Uh,
probably a track. That's the only clue I can give. I mean, I'm going to be part of the next podcast. It's a valid fear, basically, because it's something very new, right? But I would like people, all of us want people to, take AI as, as a feature for our own work, not as like a replacement or a substitute, but something as, as something that is like an accessory to our own work. So yeah, do give that one a watch as well. And yeah, any more questions? But or are we done? Well, I
Actually,
have
I
a
think,
question
yeah.
for everyone. So I have a question for the host. So all this time I was, so questions were directed at me. Now I get to be the one asking questions towards the end.
sure, sure.
Um, so that's one principle. So could you tell me about one principle, classical liberalism principle that you find most important and most aligned to?
So my favorite classical liberal principle would be free market, and then spontaneous order, and that basically entails with or includes with individualism, because everything is connected. All the principles of classical liberalism, all the principles that normally we say 10 principles, there are main principles. There are many principles, but 10 main principles. Among those, uh, free market, spontaneous order, individualism, everything is connected. Even I would say rule of law is also connected. Without rule of law, you can't have the free market. And for to have for having free market, you need spontaneous order to make it grow. And to have spontaneous order, you need individualism. So everything is connected, in my opinion. So I can't actually pick one, but in my
But all of them.
but top of my head, free market would be the main thing, I guess.
You, Ashi?
For me, actually, I was about to spill that, but people has already said it. To me, I think rule of law is the first and foremost thing that should be done. Everything is obviously interconnected, but in a society where I have lived in so far, I think a system where everyone has equal access to justice, everyone is considered equal, is very much important. Otherwise, we cannot get over corruption. We will not have an anti-corrupted society. So, um, to make a freer society, we should have the establishment of rule of law. That is first and foremost important thing. The role of government also needs to be revised. That's what I believe, where we could specifically highlight which sectors or which responsibilities should be um, under government's role, and also um, when rule of law is applied in a society, there people will be more accountable to their responsibilities. They will grow the sense of accountability or civic sense, and everything will fall into pieces one by one. Mm, what has already was said, establishment of free market or whatsoever, or ultimately having a libertarian society. Yeah.
I really like Arshi's emphasis on the rule of law because it reminds me of this one little philosopher. called A.V. Dicey. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he was really great. He was a renowned lawyer and a philosopher himself. So he put an emphasis on the doctrine of legal equality, putting up, that there's absolute supremacy of the law. And, if you have the absolute supremacy of the law, then, there's no danger or influence of arbitrary power, right? And, rule of law itself is an institution that our South Asian countries need for countries to be more prosperous. And so I think that's the one thing that's very deficient in our countries.
Exactly. Basically, all of the things that all the principles of classical liberalism, we endorse every one of them without the monopoly, without the like coercion, basically in terms of human respect of say by one that everything should be done by persuasion. Like people should be more opted to persuasion rather than the person. And this is also like main principle, I would say, in terms of classical liberty philosophy. Yes. Also, I'm wearing the
Wait, wait,
against
wait,
it.
Yeah, I don't want to force people to, accept classical liberalism. I mean, to be honest, like Archie and you, I was also, when I first joined SFL, I would question everything. I would challenge every single thing because I was like, I'm not going to readily accept anything that comes my way. Just because I've joined SFL doesn't mean I'm going to adopt this new philosophy that I've never heard about. I'm going to understand everything and I'm going to challenge everything. And there's some things that you still don't understand and you still don't know, and that's all right. But you should have, you should be able to explore libertarianism as a possible intellectual tradition because it does provide you value in terms of understanding your own human spirit. And humans are wonderful creatures, to be honest. They're very creative, and that is the whole purpose of this philosophy. It's that we humans, we have this resilience in us. We build opportunities. We build bridges. We can also, burn bridges, but we can, first and foremost build them. And so that's the whole ideal. So even if we go about living our ordinary lives, that itself holds immense value.
I think I think this brings to the another point of like another principle of like toleration. Like toleration is another principle classical liberty.
Tolerance.
Yeah, basically same thing. That people need to have an open mind. People need to accept with an open mind. Of course, be skeptical about anything that you comes in your way, but at least have an open mind. Like even now, even I say that okay, I like classical liberalism, and I say to people that I'm a classical liberalist or like I like that. But if someone can give me a proper, I would say, proper reasoning that okay, this thing is bad, this thing is good, I would obviously take that into account. Obviously,
A
I will
justification.
exactly, yeah. Basically, having an open mind is the goal, I guess.
Absolutely. Okay.
And in South Asian countries, we're not really open to, opinions and religions and cultures, and everything just seems very, we view it as
Contested.
something hostile, right? We're like, oh, that, I don't think it's going to blend well with our own culture. So, because South Asian countries, we're not like a monolith, right? We're like a blend of cultures. So many diverse cultures, languages, interests, so many of them. We're like, no, we need to make it one singular piece. So there can't be too many views. There can't be too many opinions. It's like we have a thing against too many opinions. I think we should appreciate this, because as many as our humans, there's also so much thoughts, so many thoughts, and so much expression around. And I think that's wonderful. And we've been to we've visited many countries as when attending retreats, and there we saw so many different people, different
Exactly.
cultures, even with the same cultures, they feel so different. And that's just humans, individuals, and we have to respect them, even if we have different opinions. We need to respect their own stances.
Mhm.
Respect your own stance. You need to respect their stance as well.
Exactly. Like in terms of like the recent country that we have visited was Indonesia. And the background of South Asia, most of the South Asian country and Indonesian country, or I would say maybe Indonesia, Malaysia, and all of the Asia Pacific countries, background is kind of same in everywhere. They had seaports. We also have seaports. They have Muslim majority. We also have Muslim majority, and they have like different religions. We have also different religions. They were oppressed by British. We were also oppressed by British, and also like
No, was Indonesia occupied by the British? I didn't think so, were they?
Maybe the Dutch, or
Yes, the
I'm
Dutch.
not
Yes, the
sure.
Dutch.
Dutch
Yeah.
and Portuguese, right? Oh yeah,
Portuguese. Yes,
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 Dutch
yes.
and
That's
Portuguese.
yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
they had like
Portuguese.
they have been through that kind of operation. Like so, I was saying that uh, like they had a different oppressor, I would say, and we had different oppressor. But the thing is, the growth or as of now, the disparity is like evident. Like if we go to their country, they have a like different lifestyle. We have a different lifestyle, and I would say it all depends on the people's mindset. Some people are open to new ideas, some people are not. And I don't know if I will get cancelled for it, but I would say South Asians, in some countries, South Asians have a like really closed mentality, and that's really saddening. So I would urge everyone to actually have an open thought, at least hear what others have to say, then get to action. Just don't pre-assume things and like do things on your own. That's the thing I would reiterate it every time.
Yeah, I'd say don't preach, and instead of preaching, persuade.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Uh,
persuade, persuade, persuade.
Okay, I think we had like various and different kinds of like ideas or topics that we had discussed today, from history to libertarianism to AI. It was a like interesting conversation. Thank you, Sumaira, for coming here. It was a wonderful session, and it's always great to have you. And hopefully, in the near future, in another podcast, we will also have you again. Uh,
And I should,
Maybe
and that should be on site. I should be in Bangladesh for that.
exactly. Or we be in
Right.
Pakistan.
Oh yes,
Inshallah.
that too. I mean, I would personally like being. I've always, I spoke to my friends the other day. I told them I really wanted to visit Bangladesh, and I keep track of news, right? So there's Fly Jinnah, that's securing contracts for direct flights to Bangladesh from Karachi to Dhaka, and I'm like, oh, if that happens, I'm just going to make sure I get the first flight to Dhaka. That's going to be the first thing I do.
Oh my God.
You're always welcome, and I can
Exactly.
introduce you as my British friend.
Okay,
British?
what?
I can introduce you as my British friend.
Oh,
Just
British.